Thanks very much for that introduction, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here today, and a pleasure to talk to you today, Mr. Lubi. I have to start with being completely honest with you. When Tony asked me to host this section about Estonia's digital prowess, I kind of did an internal double take, because I wasn't expecting Estonia to be a world leader in digital, because the last time I was in Estonia was actually 2006. I used to live in Moscow, and I went to Tallinn for a little weekend break. And what I remember of your country were some stunning architecture in Tallinn. It is a beautiful city, beautiful people, I have to say. And you're welcome. And start off with a flirt. That's good way to start an interview, isn't it? And also an array of spas. You've got a lot of spas in Tallinn, which I wasn't expecting. You still do. So that was 2006, and that was obviously the start of your digital journey, wasn't it? But, you know, that was my memory of it. So when Tony and I had a coffee, I immediately Googled it because I was totally ignorant. And it's probably quicker and easier for me to tell you what you can't do online in Estonia than what you can. And that is get married and divorced. I mean, literally everything else you can think of. Changing your address, doing your tax return, getting your prescriptions, as Tony said, registering births, deaths, getting your health records, all of it's available online. So we saw that 99% of state services are online. I just want to know, you know, as an ordinary citizen, what difference does that make to the people of Estonia?
A lot. First of all, I have to say that this 1% is still missing. And one thing that we changed end of last year, is that 50% of the process of getting married, now you can do online.
Oh, right. So you're getting there.
But, you know, we thought that even we have to be old-fashioned, that maybe it's polite to see your future spouse at least once in life. But other thing, of course, you know, the other part, getting divorced, I think this would be a hit.
Yeah.
Killer app. So we need to work on that. I think it's extremely important. But I think many people before us, you know, discussed it as well. You know, what is the problem? What Julie said. What is the problem we try to solve? I think when countries try to build up the e-government, the biggest mistake is that politicians try to solve their problems. That's not the issue. You have to try to solve the problems of the citizens, the residents. So that's very, very important. So you need to understand what they want. And it might come sometimes that, you know, you don't even realize that there are some things that you need to get sorted out. So whenever I ask around, when I'm in London, I ask the British colleagues as well. So think of 3 services that you use the most online. And now think why. Why do you use them? Is it because, you know, you don't have another option? It's so convenient? Or something else? That you try to save time, money, whatever. Now, if you have sorted out, defined what it is, now think, can you scale it? So that everything can be done the same way. I think this is how we did in Estonia as well, that we knew that we need to sort out what Estonia is compared to Jersey, we can say we're a massive country. We are 1.4 million, but that's our limit as well. We are a tiny country. I always say Estonia is a country, not a market. I think we are very similar with Jersey, and it's not a handicap. We just, you know, you need to overcome this. If you don't have internal market, go beyond it. Go to the global market so that everything, what was also mentioned here by previous panel, it has to be scalable, so it has to be exportable. I think also what government does, eventually have to think, can you scale it up? And that's why this has been a certain journey as well. First to try to help our own people, and now we're doing it abroad as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a bit later, but I'm just interested, you talked about that people use online services for a variety of reasons. I know that 1/3 of Estonians vote online.
Now it's even 50%. We're having elections coming up on 5th of March. I think we set a new record.
Yeah.
So that it will increase eventually, but let's say.
But what's the engagement like in other areas? Do you find that people are, you know, there is a big uptake in all your government services online, or do people still?
Yes, you don't even think of that anymore. It was introduced close to 25 years ago. I can't remember when last time, I'm official. Of course I do in some ministries. But as a citizen, when I last time needed to go to any of offices. I'm not even sure. I know that we have also windows that you can visit because there are still a fraction of the population who wants to, mostly very un-Estonian, they want to meet somebody in person. Estonians hate that. I think we have the culture that if you can do everything, this kind of, not meeting anybody, that's perfect. So
is all dating done online? I mean, does anyone meet in person?
That would work well, but still, given that our population is small also, so I think we need to have the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. And I mean, you said this whole process started about 25 years ago. Talk us through that journey, how it all started, and how you've got to this stage of becoming a world leader.
So the thing is, how it started. In the mid-90s, Estonia was still lagging behind because, we came through a rather long period of occupation, how to catch up with the Western world. So we thought, we tried to figure out, can there be shortcuts in development? And internet was just, starting to boom. We thought, IT might be the solution. So the thing is that building an e-government or building this kind of IT solutions, it wasn't then, but it's definitely not today. It's not an extra sexy layer that you just nice thing to have. You actually want to have efficiency gains. So that eventually, when we discussed yesterday also, if you have a limited labor pool, you don't have enough people to provide more services. If you cannot increase supply, reduce demand. So automate. So you see, what are the steps that you need to do in order to achieve more efficiency. Most people work. And if officials work as well, office hours. So when can you go to the office? After office hours. But if those are closed, you need more staff or pay. So in a way, it's like a closed loop. So only way is you have to make it online so that I do all my stuff weekends or in the evenings, and it works perfectly. So that first there was a will, there was a need, and then you have to execute. I think execution is very, very important. One thing that governments do a lot, I cannot, because I'm from the government myself, I cannot, let's say, charge governments for that. Governments overthink. Why? We're setting up a strategy that is important, but we mitigate all the risks. So that, of course, public service has to be risk-free. It doesn't work like that. So that too much time is set only to set up a perfect plan, and then execution lags behind. Because the government change, new plans come, and so on. Of course, the strategy has to be there, but then you have to really split it to pieces and start implementing it. The implementation is usually the, let's say, death valley, where most countries, most companies also, where they fail. So that exactly who said, Nathan said that, just start doing it. Have the plan, just start doing it, learn from others. But I think governments also, we preach always to think that failure is okay. But we're too worried to fail ourselves. I think it's important.
You talked about Death Valley. What can you tell us about the sorts of mistakes that were made along the way in Estonia's journey?
I think, in a way, we have been lucky. If I say, does Estonia has the best system in the world? If I said yes, I would be arrogant. If I said no, I would
be lying.
Downplaying our own achievements. So I think we are okay. But make it simple. I think that's one thing, and get involved everybody. I think governments, as I said, the big thing is if you build up something like e-government, it's not the issue that government needs to do. It's the issue we all need to do. So the government needs to involve the private sector as much as possible, because eventually the end user is the customer, the citizen or company and so on. They have to be there. Mm-hmm. So what Digital Jersey is doing with Tony's leadership, I think this is exactly the right thing. You have done already so much here. I think the only thing is stick to the plan and deliver.
Well, what I found interesting is obviously we saw in the video there you export your model. You've exported it to 60 countries, probably more by now since that video was made. I mean, how does it work? Do you have consultants going out to countries? I mean, is there a payment system? Do you send a how-to manual? How does it work?
Let's say everything concerning digital government, it has also handicap. But they interlinked. What I said before, where Estonia and Jersey, we are very similar. We don't have a domestic market. In a way, it's a good thing. You wouldn't have a financial industry if you thought only about Jersey, right? I mean, the size of Jersey is irrelevant. So the same applies for any other solution. So you have to think beyond your own borders. Yes, you pilot, you test it out, then you go beyond. So when we work with, let's say, like governments of Jersey, so the thing is, yes, it goes in combination. What we have done, what we could learn from you as well, because it's constant development.
You work together.
Yes, because what is very good right now, it's definitely in technology, is obsolete 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. So that we work, for example, very closely with Ukrainians. And last year, Ukrainians launched DIA, yes, a mobile government solution. That is, yes, based on the ideas we implemented in Estonia, but the mobile government itself, it's way beyond what we have. We helped them to build it up. Now we implement it back at home. So that we work in this way as well, that we come here, we discuss with you, and then some ideas, because obviously it doesn't make any sense to build exactly the same thing we had, because you need to evolve. But we learn from each other, mistakes, what we can add extra layers. Many people asked, how about this elderly, let's say, older generation, when we introduced 25 years ago, about literacy. I said, yes, there was an issue, but these days, 25 years ago, nobody had a mobile phone. Smartphone, sorry. So now everybody has. So it's much more easier, but also how we use services has evolved, it's changed. So that we just need to keep up with that process. But I know that Tony discusses that also. One key aspect I still need to say, it's very, very difficult to build a well-integrated public and private sector system if you don't have a properly functioning EID. This is the only way that really helps to connect all different dots. Otherwise, you live in a parallel world. It's possible. You can have a superb individual service. But I think where Estonia has really mastered it is how different services can talk to each other. And that creates a synergy.
Yeah. Well, tell us about it. We did a story recently that people in the islands can't access credit cards because we don't have like a centralised database of addresses. We don't have an ID verification system. We are, quite frankly, Estonia puts Jersey to shame. So can you help us?
Let's say that. I think you don't need our help. You just need our, let's say.
We do. I think we do.
We need to exchange ideas. And the thing is that all the keywords have been said here as well. I think, as said, let's work on a specific plan and then start implementing it. And the thing is that, as said, don't try to build a proper, or let's say, the whole picture at once. Whenever I build up innovation lab in Estonia as well, then I, consulted with startups and founders, always got the same advice. You cannot foresee everything. Start doing and learn on the way. So don't try to, as I said before, mitigate all the risks that you might face. It never works.
Ever the diplomat. So, our conversation's happening between you and our government.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, great. I know you're here to speak at this conference. I don't know what conversations Tony is. We wish he was in government, but he's not in government. So you are having talks with our external relations and.
No, the thing is, I've been here, met many very smart, very important people with fantastic titles as well. I've learned them all. So that, yes, we're discussing.
I'll test you later. Fantastic. Now, we're going to move on to talk about the private sector. We're actually on time. Can I have a few more minutes?
Yes, definitely.
So I want to talk about the private sector and your digital economy.
In a way, yeah, the story is very, very simple. That very, very quickly, in the mid-90s, Estonia decided that the most important thing is to start with connecting all the schools to internet. We knew that the youngsters will change the world. So we started with all the schools. Then e-government was introduced in late 90s, early 2000s. And then 2003, yes, Skype was born in Estonia. It took 3 Estonian guys to write the program, but there was a Danish guy and Swedish guy who understood it's a great idea, made it big, sold it first to eBay, then to Microsoft. So that was our first success. and we learned a lot from it. Two very important elements related to Skype and our, let's say, success that came after. First, Estonia thought or realized we can do it, but don't sell yourself cheaply. So that all the following unicorns, Estonians didn't sell before they were big. So that you didn't need the foreigners to make them big. We knew that we can do it. Secondly, many of our future founders, now unicorn founders, they either worked for a long time or shortly in Skype. Let's say financial sector, Wise, maybe you know the fintech company that was listed in London Stock Exchange 2 years ago for 10 billion. The founders are 2 Estonians. David Hindrikus, one of the founders, was the employee #1 of Skype. So why it's relevant? Because you know we have second and third generation founders who know what kind of mistakes to avoid. The other success, and I think Jersey has also you know many credentials and you know how it works. I repeat again. Our countries are not the markets, just a place to work and cultivate good ideas. Estonian startups are successful. Why? Because they are exposed to global competition from day one. Because we don't have the luxury to have a domestic market. If your idea is good, you scale up fast. If your idea is bad, you die fast. Freeing up the talent. That is the biggest limitation every country has, even big countries. So that the cycle is faster. And that's very important. Money is not an issue. Money is everywhere. So that it's all about talent. And the thing is what also, everybody talks about talent. And I think, you know, small countries like Estonia and Jersey, if you cannot beat the market, go around it. Why e-residency was introduced? We don't have enough people. So I thought, you know, if the people don't come to Estonia to use our e-services, we go to them. So that wherever you are, you become an e-resident, use Estonian e-services. So because, you know, it's underused, given the infrastructure we have, we can serve many more people. Because engineers always figure it out. I used to be ambassador to India, and some of you have heard the story. When I was there, I said, everybody knew about Estonian e-success. But they said, oh, you're different. We're big, you're small. I said, come on, we're the same. We have 1.4, you have 1.4. They have billion, we have million. Oh, we're the same. And I said, everything Estonia has done, we have outsourced from private sector. Government works together with the private sector, says we need this kind of solution. Then they all work together, and then they compete for the best service. Now, if you ask in India as well, from the private sector companies, is 1 million better or 1 billion? They always pick 1 billion because they see the opportunity, not only the challenge. So the underlying point, don't quote me, is that whatever the issues are, engineers will figure it out. All the obstacles are usually political.
Well, yeah, this is an interesting point because you kind of summed it up there. Estonia's put digital government and its digital economy together by putting its faith in local IT innovations locally and then helping them to export it globally. Now, talking to people I don't work in digital, I'm just a journalist, but I do talk to people, and talking to people in the industry, I'm reliably told we don't do that. We do a lot of importing of services. So, how can we be better at, you mentioned about creating a culture, the right environment for innovation. How can we be better at doing this? What advice would you give us?
I would challenge you what you said on this respect. Importing is not a bad thing. Jersey and Estonia, we are both trading nations. We're small. We can't be self-sustainable in everything. Yeah, so we trade. So that my point I want to say is that we found our niche in IT, e-government, startups in software and so on. Your niche is definitely financial services. Of course, you need to diverse. Now the thing is, if you don't have indigenous, this kind of sector, importing the best service is probably, maybe it's even efficient.
Although, but if the services are here, to do the job, and we're not doing that, that can't be a good thing, can it? I mean, I'm saying, yeah, I agree with you that if the technology isn't there, and the timescales don't allow.
What I mean by that is that, I think every country should have like a platform that is a cornerstone, like backbone. In Estonia, it's called X-Road. And then if that is in place, this is like exactly the highway where different services can talk to each other. Then you add up all your, let's say, Jersey-specific services there that you can run and execute. Because this bicycle project is great. We discussing with my colleague from the embassy why it was launched here, not in Estonia. I think that is extremely important. But eventually, the thing is that how you use this data, what other data you can link it to, that creates more value. That's why you need this platform, this cornerstone that can be built up by yourself, yes, or by the help with others. So I think, in a way, I said, I don't think that sometimes when I was in Estonia also head of economy, that some things don't spend too much of time if it's easier to import. Because in Estonia and Jersey, we need to focus on our strength and limit our weaknesses.
Yeah, but you mentioned you've now got 10 unicorns / startups.
Yes.
Which I understand it's the highest number per capita in the world.
Yes.
Yeah. So what have these, exports meant for the economy in Estonia in terms of skills, jobs? What's it meant for your economy?
So Estonian economy, let's see, Estonian economy is 35 billion euros, so it's about 32 billion pounds. Let's simplify. 10 unicorns, each 1 billion. So
it's
10
a big
billion.
chunk, yeah.
So it's about 1/3 of our economy. Okay,
Yeah.
Most of it is abroad anyway, but it doesn't matter. But the thing is that the services are expanding fast because they're all global. Obviously, you cannot be a unicorn being in the Estonian market alone. So they are the fastest growing segment in the Estonian economy. And whenever I explain to the politicians also why you need to support it, because they create more jobs, well-paid jobs, than any other sector. Not in relative terms, but in absolute terms. So that we need to let them grow. Like probably in Jersey as well, in Estonia, the tech sector says, right now they are about 7% of our GDP. They want to be 30. The target is set by the sector, not by the government. So that what government can do, it's perfect for the government. Just help when needed and don't interfere when it's not needed. And let the sector itself thrive and do what they need and want.
That's good advice. Just a couple more questions from me. The most obvious thing for me is one of the flip sides to being a digital world leader is you expose yourself to hackers.
Yes.
I understood you had the largest hacking incident in the world in 2007. You were recently targeted by Russia.
Yes.
It's risky, isn't it, having so many processes and so much personal data online. What do you do to protect yourselves?
Yep. Very fair question, and many easy but several answers, because especially cyberspace, there is no one single silver bullet that helps. It's actually a combination of many smaller things. First, our government or our system is built up not in one big database, but lots of databases, hundreds of them. But let's say the beauty of it is they can talk to each other. All the data is encrypted. That is the only state secret in Estonia about our e-government. We don't say much about how we do it. Mm-hmm. Third thing is that cybersecurity. A couple of things, very tiny things. Ransomware software that Estonia has been not affected so much. Of course, we as well, but not so much. Very tiny things. Estonian e-government doesn't work if your software is not updated. As you know, private companies always send you updates so that you can, let's say, close the loopholes, so that it just doesn't work. If you have a 3-year-old Internet Explorer, you cannot, before you access the public service, it says, please update your software. And most important thing, whenever I talk to cybersecurity people, they say it's all about collaboration, learning from each other. Because in cyberspace, things are moving extremely fast. So what we have done in Estonia, after 2007 attacks, we had our credentials before, but now we have built on that. Estonia hosts NATO Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity, and the IT agency of the EU is also located in Tallinn. So I give you one example, I think the best example. All the chiefs of our IT departments of different ministries and government organizations, utilities, banks, telcos. They all come together, they all have military ranks, they regularly exercise, they have blue and red teams, they are integrated to our National Defense League so that they do live practices also, how to fight off. So for example, that now we are all under constant attack by Russia and China and others. Just, usually people don't talk about that. But the public information also says the attacks we had in 2007 and now, right now, the attacks are 100 times stronger. But our people say, it's rather easy to defend. So just, you build up the expertise, but collaboration is the most important thing between the countries as well. You have to learn what are the new tricks. If we don't talk to each other, then we're in trouble.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because obviously cybersecurity is of great importance here with our finance industry, so that's really interesting here. Final question from me. I think it would be quite rather ambitious for me to think that in the next few years we could become as digitally advanced as Estonia. But if you had to pick 3 areas that you think Jersey needs to prioritise and get done quickly in order to advance, what 3 areas would those be?
It's very difficult to say. Maybe the comparison I have, since now 2018, Estonia and Finland, and now also Iceland, we have a joint venture that actually we develop e-government systems together. So Finland stopped, developing its own system, took ours over, but now we do it jointly. How it started with, where is the demand? Finland and Estonia, the closest partners, well, culturally and linguistically the closest. So if you have been, Helsinki and Tallinn are only 50 miles apart. And on both sides of the bay, we have about 15,000 companies, Estonian companies in Finland, 20,000 Finnish companies in Estonia. So the need was you have a close cooperation between the business registries, tax boards. This is where it started. The need was there. Just how to change information so that the companies don't need to travel physically all the time. And from there, it just spread. Now what was also, I think Johnny was saying that e-prescriptions. Now when a doctor prescribes me a drug, then I go to any pharmacy in Finland and take it out. So that the need is there.
So 3 areas. Work with you.
Yes.
Any others?
No, I think what I've heard so far is that the plan is there. And I said, I really was astonished by the enthusiasm of the people I met yesterday. Trust your people, execute it, and don't overcomplicate things. Learn as you go. I think this is very important.
Great advice. Mr. Viljar Lubi, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you. I think we've all learnt a lot today. So please join me in thanking Mr. Viljar Lubi.
Thank you so much.